Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit arnoldclark.com.
Welcome to Peter and Roughie's Football Show, sponsored by Arnold Clark. I'm Peter Martin, Alan Rough, Tam McManus and Charlie Adam here with me. Delighted to have your company. Hit the follow button on our Facebook and you can share the stream as well with your friends. We'd be delighted if you could do that. And if you're on our YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button as well. You can join the football family and talk about international football. We'll be discussing racism as well. And we'll be discussing family members who can't keep quiet while we're doing this individually at each house. And with that in mind, somebody said something on the show last week that just got us all thinking. And everybody was on it quickly just to see and wonder what was going to happen when Charlie eventually gets this new hairstyle that he's looking at. So we've got a few options, Roughie. Here's option number one. And I don't know if everybody's into this one. This is option number one coming up for Charlie. And I just wonder, I don't know if that kind of that's a kind of a, is that a kind of a Bon Jovi look there, Tam? Can we see him do that one?
I think I'd take a long time to grow that, Charlie. You need to keep putting water on it all the time.
A bit of Stevie Archibald, that, isn't
it? Absolutely. So that's one. Roughie, cast your eye over this one. This is number two, which you feel as if maybe a bit more achievable, that one, Roughie.
Yeah, that's more sort of some more gallish look in it. It's a more... I don't know what year it's definitely Dallas.
yeah, it is kind of a first minister. I must admit, strutting your stuff in the middle of the park, in control of everything, Charlie. And option number three, will this be the overall winner? Well, Tam,
beautiful.
I don't know about you. That is magnificent, isn't it? I mean, that one looks very.
He looks like an Argentinian hardman, number 6.
Yeah.
Is that Diego Simone about him there?
Yeah, I like that one. I actually think that one looks the berries, but we're going to have to wait over the next 6 months or so to see exactly which one he opts for. And then, it all changes because it had to take a wee bit of getting used to Tam when Scott Brown let his hair grow back in again.
I know, I didn't recognise him. He didn't look right, didn't he? No? He looks mean and lean when he shaves it off, and then he was growing hair, and his hair's a joke. His hair's been a joke for years, so I'm glad he shaved it off now.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, apart from anything else, brought a bit of merriment. There's this great app where you can actually just stick different hairstyles on it, and I started sending them to Charlie late on Friday night, and some of them actually look
Charlie,
bad.
When you booked in? When's it starting? The old transplant? Is it a definite go?
No, I've got an appointment in the next couple of weeks.
Brilliant. Do you know what? I know what I love about it, Roughie? Do you know what I love about Charlie? There's no worrying about it, embarrassment or whatever. There it is. He's put it out there, Roughie. He's not worried about it. That's great.
Yeah, I've got a guy down in my garage down there that I go and get the papers at, and I went in one day and he had 3 strands. No, just 3 strands, and he went, "What do you think of my new hair transplant?" And I'm going,
Yeah.
So make sure you get the whole lot, not a couple of strands, and letting it grow.
Yeah, although the best story of all time, Roughie, you have to tell Charlie this one is about, what about the boy that stopped you at the supermarket and hadn't seen you in a while? This is fantastic.
Was a good one. I'm standing in the checkout at my local supermarket, and there's a boy behind me. And you know what, like, Charlie, when you've got somebody behind you, and they know they want to talk to you. They know they want to say something. They know they want to take part. So he taps me on the shoulder and he goes, "You're Alan Rough, aren't you?" And I went, "Aye." And before I go any further, he had 2 teeth in the front. That was it. 2 teeth and no hair. And he goes, "You're Alan Rough, aren't you?" I went, "Aye." He says, "Boy," he says, "you've let yourself go, have you know?" and I says to him, "Look at yourself in the mirror." And he goes, "You're a cheeky bee." I says, "Well, you started it."
Brilliant. Anyway, apart from anything else, listen, we're keeping our fingers crossed. We're going to talk about Scotland. We'll hear from Steve Clarke ahead of the game. Surely there's a goals fest tonight. We'll talk about Scotland. We'll also discuss some of the results from last night as well, and we'll look at Championship, League One, as well as League Two. Some talking points to discuss on the programme, and you can give us your thoughts on that, as well as obviously debating who you think should play. There'll be the Aberdeen Q&A, which is coming up. Jackson Irvine is someone that the Hibbies want to keep, and we might get on to Wraith Rovers and their thrilling performance against Dunfermline, and we'll talk Celtic and Rangers too. And we start off with Rangers because, quite simply, Roughie, this whole Glenn Kamara thing is it's turning. No, it's not that it's turning nasty. It's a kind of a situation where I think Slavia Prague are trying every stroke they can to try and deflect away from the responsibility that many people feel they should be taking over the conduct of their player and their treatment of Glenn Kamara. They've obviously accused Rangers now of a cover-up. They covered up security cameras. Steven Gerrard was privy to the incident, they say, and this is the statement that they made regarding this whole incident. Pending investigation conducted by UEFA and the police have made no findings so far. However, Andre Kudela has already been the subject of a public conviction without any evidence. He is a victim of prejudice and a presumption of guilt. UEFA are still conducting an investigation and have been granted additional time until the 5th of April 2021 to deliver the report. We believe in an evidence and law-based process whereby Andre and our club both provided necessary cooperation. We have presented evidence which, in our view, cleanses Andre of an unjustified accusation of racism. The sad side of the whole matter is that Rangers are trying to cover up overtly aggressive play by their team. The Rangers delegation claimed I wish to speak to Andre in order to clarify the alleged racial insult. The conversation was about to take place in the tunnel in the presence of the UEFA match delegation and the coaches of both teams. And they go on to say the cameras covering the meeting place were purposely covered, and Mr. Kamara, with no warning and obviously having zero intention to have the conversation, roughly assaulted Andre by punching him in the face. After trying to continue fighting, he fled into the dressing room, followed by Mr. Gerrard without a single word of apology. It is a disgraceful incident. Any form of racial discrimination is contrary to our values and principles, and we shall never tolerate such conduct. We believe that all people must be free and equal with their rights and dignity. Slavia strictly abides by the policy against racism. Well, if he thinks there's a presumption of guilt, I don't know where it's coming from. I think everybody has been reporting the issue, Tam. Certainly on this programme, there's been no presumption of guilt, merely highlighting certain parts of what unfolded and questioning what the motivation would be for Glenn Kamara to act in such an angry way. And that's an observation. It's not saying that he's guilty because the evidence is still to be displayed. The other thing, Tam, which I think is open to debate now is suddenly Rangers, you know, there was a suggestion from Slavia last week, I remember, saying there was a UEFA match official there who saw it. Steven Gerrard was present in the tunnel. And now suddenly there's no cameras and there's no mention of the UEFA match official. So I'm curious to see, once all the evidence comes in, what we will find from this.
They're floundering, Peter, aren't they? They're trying everything they can to wriggle their way out of this. I don't think there's any doubt whatsoever in my mind, in anybody's mind who watched that there was a racial taunt towards Glenn Kamara for him to act like that. And the bit at the end there, in the tunnel, the Rangers purposely turned cameras off. I mean, this is no Hollywood. How can you go and turn cameras off and it's absolute nonsense. They are floundering because they know they are going to get hit and hit hard, I think, by UEFA. So they're trying to save their own skin. Not for me. They can keep coming out with whatever they want, but there's no doubt in my mind, and millions of people that watched that incident, the sly way they went up and covered his face, so nobody would lip read him, and the way Kamara reacted. There's no doubt that he said something really, really poor and racial to Glenn Kamara, and I'd never justify violence, in any way of life. But if somebody says that to you and you get a wee chance to give them a dig in the tunnel, then Glenn Kamara's well within his rules for me to go and give him a dig, because that is completely out of order.
Yeah, I would say, and I want to try and offer to be as fair as possible on this, and I think it's only fair from our own point of view because we do not know the specifics. I don't think, Charlie, we can say that there was a definitive racist comment. That's for Glenn Kamara to relay to UEFA and UEFA to assist on all the evidence once it's put before them. I think if there are witnesses to anything that happened in the tunnel, then that evidence will be collated, put together and assessed. But, unless there is a third party somewhere, Charlie, who knows certainly, other than Glenn Kamara, what was said, it's going to be mightily difficult for them to prove it. But our only reaction here is Glenn Kamara has got no reason in the last couple of minutes of a game where they were well beaten, no reason to kick off.
No, and obviously when the situation happened, I asked the lads the following day about what Glenn Kamara was like as a character, and for him to react like that, it's gone above and beyond of what should have been said, and that's what the lads were saying, that he would never have reacted in a way. Listen, if it was something different and it was something that he'd said and it was laughed, Glenn Kamara would have laughed it off. But how he reacted in that way, it was obviously below the level that it should have been, a racist comment, something like that. So he's obviously reacting the right way, and absolutely should have. It's disgusting. It should not be allowed in the game. And to then go and say about the cameras and things like that, I think they're paddling and they're struggling to find evidence. Steven Gerrard and the staff brought it out into the open air so everybody can see the conversation with the coaches of Slavia Prague and also the other members of staff. The chairman was there, Ross Wilson was there. Rangers had nothing to hide. They wanted it out in the open to delegate it and make sure that everybody's seen what the situation was. And, we'll just have to wait on the UEFA report and to go with that. But, it's not great. And I said it last week and I'll probably say it again. I don't think you'll see him in that Arsenal game in the UEFA Cup soon, in the Europa League, soon. I think they'll try and protect him and try and brush this under the carpet like they do, but we have to try and stay strong. And I know obviously there was a meeting today with clubs and captains and things like that, and it's important that Rangers have got the right to keep talking about it and keep it out there and keep it open and let people talk, because it's important that we stamp this out.
Yeah, I mean, the one, a lot of people mentioning on here that Zungu heard it as well. I hope that is the case, Roughie, because that, for me, really will solidify the case in favour of Glenn Kamara. That's what I think all of us hope. We can only draw our own conclusions because, as Charlie mentioned there, you get a character witness on a boy who doesn't, he doesn't strike me as a boy who courts any kind of publicity, goes about his job. He's a quiet lad. Certainly the players who've played with him and know him say that, he's not the type of boy to react the way he did on that night. But if he's got a teammate who heard it as well, Roughie, that corroboration, is the part for me that I think will really cement his case.
Well, that's what we're all hoping. We're all hoping that there is evidence, because in this instance, this kind of thing, that there needs to be proof, because we know when it gets right down to it, there's going to be lawyers involved. There's going to be people coming up with, suggestions and ideas, defending and all that kind of stuff. So it needs to be 100%. So let's hope that the evidence is there, that he was guilty and somebody heard it and he gets punished, and he gets punished that everybody sees. The other thing in the tunnel, that'll get dealt with as well. It's a different issue, but if there's a UEFA delegate there, and by all accounts they're saying the UEFA delegate saw what happened in the tunnel, then that'll be dealt with as well. That the evidence will all be out there. But on the racist thing, if he's guilty, let's hope he gets punished.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, I have great sympathy for Glenn Kamara, and lots of players and staff and people out with Rangers are standing toe-to-toe with him and backing him on this one. We certainly wouldn't want anybody to be subjected to any kind of racist abuse, especially at this point where I feel as if it has reached fever pitch, not only with the social media issues as well, but let's hope this is resolved in the proper manner. Glenn Kamara himself has released a statement through his lawyer, which basically says, when I play, I feel I represent my family. I feel like I represent all those young black kids who dream of one day playing for their team. Kujela didn't just try to humiliate me, he also tried to humiliate my mother and my family. For anyone to say such racist words to another human being is disgusting enough. What makes it even worse is that this player is supposed to be a professional. If I could have turned back the clock, I would have walked off the pitch. There were so many emotions going through my mind, I just couldn't think straight. And again, you know, in a strange sort of way, Charlie, had he walked off the pitch, you know, I am almost certain Slavia would have said, "Oh, you're just doing that because you know you're losing the game." You know, there's all sorts of things. People, normal thinking people, would say Glenn Kamara should have walked off the pitch, made a stand, because there are players before in Europe who've made a stand when they're, you know, subjected to racial abuse. Maybe he should have walked off, but you know, you only have to look at the way they operate at the moment. They would have said that's just because you're going out of Europe and you're being beaten. You know, the way of trying to deflect.
Yeah, and it's a shame, and it's probably the emotion, and he's been caught up in the whole situation. I could say now, as captain of Dundee, that if any of my players were racially abused, I'd walk off straight away. I'd take the whole team off, and the game would be stopped. It's not acceptable. I think that's the only way it can happen now. That if players are having to go into the pitch to listen to that and get that abuse, then we walk off together and we'll deal with the consequences of it. But I can understand his emotion and where he was at and the game and what had been said. And, you know, you don't think about that until you sat down and reflecting and thinking, I should have walked off, because then it makes a stance for the whole world to see what's going on. So, listen, it's a lesson learned, but I hope that we can learn less from this. And like you say, this guy could be sorted, and the situation could be cleared up, and whatever punishment is taken, then he has to take it.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll wait to see, because I think if they don't hammer it, I think a lot of people will look and question UEFA's stance on this tokenism at times of taking a knee, kick out racism, show racism, the red card. They preach it with the banners, with the cards and everything. It'll be interesting to see how it develops. I mean, it's not just a problem you know, here, it's across Europe, it's across the globe. Finland captain Tim Sparv revealed he received hate mail after wearing a T-shirt in support of Glenn Kamara, which just beggars belief. And as Charlie mentioned there, Roughie, James Tavernier attended an SFA summit today to represent Rangers. A lot of players there talking about this and say it's time for football authorities, clubs and social media companies to work together to eradicate the hatred. And I can see it gathering pace, Roughie. I just wonder how strong it's going to be to suddenly get the social media companies around a table and agree to legislation. And then after that, how you police it.
Yeah, I think the more pace it grows, the better it will get for it to be put in place, that we're not going to stand for it. But I still say you need punishment. You need a massive punishment that you would think sensible-minded footballers out there are going to say, right, if I go down this road, I'm going to get banned for 2 years or whatever. I'm not going to get playing international football. A statement needs to be put out there for everybody to see. And I think that will be the next step.
Yeah, absolutely. Celtic have released a statement today as well. I think Peter Lawwell, the chief executive, has said, again, backing the whole stance that many clubs in Scotland and players have been talking about, whether it relates to Celtic or any other club. It is time. It is stop. Racism or any other form of discrimination should have no place in football or society, and we need to do all we can to eradicate such prejudice. It's an unfortunate topic to talk about, and over the last, I think, 6 months to a year on this programme, we've started to give it more and more airtime because it's regularly occurring, and I think it's a sad state of affairs. It is a problem in society, it is a problem with people in their upbringing, and education is almost certainly the key to this, and consistently ramming home the message and being vocal. It's time for the decent thinking people to be consistently vocal, to drown out the people who are using social media as a platform for all their bile. It's as simple as that. On to matters on the field of play. Scotland against the Faroe Islands. We should score a few goals tonight, but let's deal with a few issues that have reared their ugly head. Listen, everybody can offer their criticism of players, how they've played, because that's part and parcel of the game, Roughie. This time, Andy Robertson's coming in for a bit of flack. We were critical of his performance the other night there. But that's an observation and an opinion of the game of football. Has he gone off the boil?
I think about the standards that he set, that he isn't playing to that standard, and I think he'll be openly admit it himself that he can be better, but I don't think there's any reason for him to be omitted for the team. We all know what he can do. He's a massive asset when he's on his game. So, as you said, we've just thrown out an opinion that in the two games that he's played, he hasn't performed to the level that we know he can, and it's just an opinion. I don't know why he has to come out and defend him and say get off his back and all that. He's a footballer. If you don't have a good game, you've not had a good game. You just have to deal with it. So that's where we are. It's just that he hasn't performed.
Charlie, Steve Clark reckons he's being harshly treated by pundits and fans.
I agree with him. I think that, we keep going back and we'll go with the England situation with Trent Alexander. The two of them were in World Team of the Year 6 months ago. They're the two best fullbacks in the world. He's gone through a tough spell in his career. The whole Liverpool team is going through a bad spell. And now he's playing for the national team. Because he's one of two of our best players and he's probably not playing at the level that we know he can. And he's going to get criticism because he's captain and he plays for a high-profile club. I think there's others that are getting away with it that are not performing. And, we have to look elsewhere too. So, now, listen, Andy Robertson is a stick-on for me to be playing. Should be playing every game. And, he'll work his way through this. He's a top player. And I look forward to getting him and seeing him, captain of Scotland for years to come.
Well, this begs another question then, Tam, on this one. A lot of people say, yeah, absolutely, you can reach the heady heights, but you can have, as Roughie says, games where you're not at it, you're not on form. Charlie's mentioned there are many other players, but Andy Robertson has set standards that Roughie was talking about, and you're only as good as your last gig. If Diana Ross comes on, does the concert and is ranked rotten, she's ranked rotten. It's as simple as that. If you pay to see a group, you want to see them at their absolute best. And maybe in the last couple of games, maybe Andy hasn't reached that standard. Is he beyond the criticism? Should we be just shutting up and letting him get on with it because of what he's achieved before?
No, I think that every player is as you said, they're only good as your last game. But I think it's because of the standards Andy Robertson plays at Liverpool. You've got to take into account that the players he's playing with at Liverpool, when he goes into a Scotland jersey, Scotland fans are immediately expecting Liverpool-type performances. He's playing with guys like Salah and Mane down that side. He's not got that same quality at Scotland. So I think it's difficult. I think it was maybe similar with Darren Fletcher when he played in a Scotland jersey. He was playing really, really well in a great Man United team. And he came into a Scottish team that didn't have as good a players as he was playing at Man United. So I think he's always going to get criticised when he doesn't reach that real high level, but he's a top player, as Charlie said. He's been the team of the year. He's gone through a little bad patch. His standards are what they used to be. So, but I don't think you should drop him. I think left back tonight, Kieran Tierney left centre half, and you can put whatever else the team you want to play. But those two have got to play in those two positions tonight for me, and because they're two of your best players.
Yeah, I must apologise because Stephen Craw has just put a message up saying leave Diana Ross alone. I don't know why. I don't know why I thought of it. Why did I think of Diana Ross? Why did that name come into my head, Roughie? I couldn't think of a band that wouldn't offend anybody. Trying to come up with somebody who was like unbelievably good but maybe had an off night. Anyway, apart from anything else, our reporter Gabriel Antoniazzi looks ahead to this one.
Thanks, Peter, and good afternoon from Hampden Park, where Scotland will take on the Faroe Islands this evening in their third World Cup qualifier, a game which they surely must win to keep their Qatar 2022 dreams alive. There's 2 draws from the opening 2 games against Austria and Israel for Steve Clarke's men, which is by no means a poor start. But the first half in Tel Aviv on Sunday was particularly lacklustre, with the team too defensive. Clarke wants his men to be at it and on the front foot from the off this evening.
I don't think there's any lack of belief. I think we can be better. I think we can have a mentality that's better. I think it's and I say it all the time when I come here, it's a group, a squad of players that are getting more and more international experience. And the more they get, the easier it will become to play in this type of match where you should go to the pitch and dominate the game from start to finish. But it's really difficult to do that at any level of international football.
Switching to 4 at the back will allow Clarke's men to be more attacking. We expect them to do that. Craig Gordon could come in for David Marshall in goal, whilst Kenny McLean is also likely to start in the middle of the park. Looking at the Faroe Islands, Clarke expects them to come at them and have a go, try and win, just like they did against Austria at the weekend. It was their first loss in 4 matches, even though they did take the lead.
I think they'll come at us the same as they did with Austria. They went at Austria, they put the Austrians under pressure, put a lot of balls in the box, they've got a long throw, they've got good delivery on set plays, and they got the goal off a set play. They've got a really big centre half, who I believe plays in Ireland. And they're a threat.
Fans will hope for plenty of goals this evening in a victory that will put Scotland on 5 points from their opening 3 World Cup qualifiers. What that means in terms of qualification, we'll have to wait until September when the games return. But Clarke will hope to return positivity to his team after no wins in 5 and also get a step closer to finding out his best 11 ahead of the summer's European Championships.
Yeah, thanks to Gabriel, who'll be covering that game for us tonight and bringing us all the reaction after the game. You can get that on plzsoccer.com and on our Twitter account. Tam, okay, they'll come at us. I don't think we can read anything into tonight other than get a win.
Yeah, just need to win the game. Now, Peter, I'm going to have a wee word of warning. These are your absolute bottom jobber outfits like San Marino, Andorra, Gibraltar, that Sunday League teams could beat. These are no bad. No, they're up a level from them, so I'm not expecting a 5 or 6-0 job. You know, they've scored in the last 4 internationals. I'd say they took the lead against Austria and by all accounts played pretty well. So I would take a 2-0 win right now. I think 2-0 would be a good result, 3-0, and move on to the next game. But I think they'll make it tough for us.
Okay, Charlie, do you share that view?
Yeah, no, I agree with him. I would take 1-0 right now, especially with 2 draws that we've had. As long as you get 3 points, and you know we look to try and do the basics right, and we stop conceding goals. You know, I think if we can get a clean sheet and if we can get 1 or 2 goals, be great, and we can move on to the next games. But a win is a must.
Roughie.
Yeah, I was looking forward to the game till he told me that they're going to be a threat tonight, and now I'm starting to panic. They've got a big boy at 6'5", and they're good at this and they're good at that. No, a clean sheet like Charlie, a clean sheet tonight, a good performance. 2 or 3-0 would be fine. Any more than 3-0, we can just start getting mental again. Think we're that fantastic side as we always do. And get into the Euros with a 4 or a 5-0 would be great for the players. It would be great for the supporters. It just needs to be a positive performance. That's all I'm saying. The only thing I don't agree with him, as he says, it's very difficult to dominate these games now. He obviously never seen the Denmark-Moldova game, so you can dominate games against these teams.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're 100% right. I mean, I watched the highlights of that game and they were unbelievable. They just kept firing them in from everywhere. With that in mind, here's potentially what could be the starting 11. Tam, what do you make of
it? First and foremost, Peter, I'd be inclined to play 2 strikers. Now, I know I've spoken about it a lot. You know, maybe it's an opportunity to try Dykes and Adams together. You know, we need to try and have a different system that we can go to. Maybe an opportunity to try the 2 of them together. You've not got a better opportunity for them both to play well together and strike up a wee partnership and get a few goals. Possibly even Kevin Nisbet coming on for half an hour just to have a look at him. You know, so I like the team, but I would be inclined to play the 2 up front against the Faroe Islands at home. I wouldn't play the the 4-3-3 or whatever. I've got to play two strikers, I think, tonight. I don't know if you agree.
I'd like. I agree with you 100%, Tam. Charlie?
Yeah, I'd like to maybe put a little bit of a diamond in midfield. Like I say, I would like to get the two up front. I'd like to see if the two of them can actually go and play together, Dykes and Adams, and see if they can link up and get a partnership. And like Tam said, I think it's an opportunity to give Nisbet a reward for what he's done since he's come from Dunfermline to Hibs. Had a little blip, left at the team a wee bit, come back in to score a few goals. So I think it'd be good to get that. But I think the big thing would be, can we go and play two up front and get a partnership with they two up front? And like I say, if we do that and we can score a few goals and keep a clean sheet, it'd be a good night.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just looking there. Obviously, the ideal thing for us, Tam, is get the points, and then hope that Austria and Denmark somehow at some point cut each other's throats. Draws would be great.
Yeah, definitely, Peter. I think that'd be a perfect night for us. You go and win 2 or 3-0 against the Faroe Islands, and the other game's a draw. All of a sudden, a kind of poor start becomes not a bad start. You've got a wee glimmer of light. If they two can draw against each other in the two games against each other, then it gives you a wee chance. I know we're looking into the future, Mystic Meg type here, but a wee draw or even a Denmark win. You don't want Austria to win. I think that'd be a nightmare, because you're wanting Denmark to scoop the league. You scoop the group and go well clear, and then you're battling it with Austria. So anything bar an Austria win or a Faroe Islands draw.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, Roughie. I'm looking at the group at the moment. Denmark with 6 points, Austria with 4, Scotland with 2, then it's Faroe Islands, Israel and Moldova. So I tend to agree. I think Denmark, do we want Denmark running away with it, Roughie?
Well, how good are Denmark? They've definitely got good players. I don't think they're one of the big ones. I think they're just underneath them. The Italys, the Spains, the Portugals. If we're that good and we're improving year on year, these games are coming later on in the year. We've got to say we're good enough to take something off Denmark, particularly at home. So I'm not as convinced as Tam. I don't know where I stand in this Denmark-Austria game. I don't know whether I want, if Denmark run away with it, all we're getting is a playoff. It's not an automatic qualification. You've got to go into another playoff, to qualify, and you don't know who you're going to get then. I don't know. I would like a draw, and obviously we've got the two away from home, but it's the two away games, that are coming up fast and furious, where we really need to take something, because it can then just be a drift of us, if we don't get in Austria, don't get in Denmark. So I'd probably go for a draw tonight and keep everybody quite tight together.
Yeah, a draw with them, but you obviously want a win for Scotland. I think 3-0. What are you going for, Roughie?
I'd be happy with 3-0, yeah.
Yep. Charlie, 1-0?
I'll be happy 1-0, but I think I'll go 2-0, make it better, 2-0.
2-0, fantastic. That'll help our WhatsApp group when we're all chatting to each other and slaughtering our comments. But here's hoping. Hey, talking of international football, it was a great result last night, Tam, for Wales against the Czech Republic.
Great result, 1-0. Czech Republic, didn't see the game, had a wee look at the stats, and I think the Czech Republic were the better side for long periods, but obviously got a man sent off. And then Wales got a man sent off later on. It was 10v10, but great result. Czech Republic, I've been quite impressed with them. I think your group's pretty tough in the Euros. I thought Czech Republic were brilliant against us at Hampden and should have beat us. So that group's looking difficult. Czech Republic are a good side, but brilliant result for Wales.
Yeah, absolutely magnificent. England take on Poland. Northern Ireland take on Bulgaria, and a chance for Stephen Davis, Charlie, to beat Peter Shilton's record, which will be magnificent. I mean, I hope there's a wee... I think they'd still do it. I hope there's some kind of commemorative plaque or, something just to actually hand over to him. Just a tremendous achievement.
Yeah, I think the Irish FA will probably give him something for that, for doing that. But also, I think UEFA and FIFA, they must be looking to give him something as well. That's an unbelievable achievement to get over 125 caps. The dedication, the luck with injuries to get to that level is just phenomenal. And, it just caps off what it's been as an unbelievable season so far for him at club level and personally, and then obviously in the international scene. But, knowing as Steve, he'll be thinking as long as we need to win the game, and that'll be the most important thing for them because they've had a tough time of it recently.
Yeah, absolutely. Well done to him. And he could play for a few years more, Roughie.
It's absolutely fantastic. I got 53 caps and it took me 10 years to get that. So I don't know how long it's taken him to get 125. It's just an incredible, professionalism, to keep yourself going for that long. And we all know what kind of player he is. He's just magnificent. He just does his business on the park without no airs or graces. And that's a sign of a good player. I don't think he gets enough credit sometimes. Over here, I think other players get the credit where he should be getting it, but that won't bother him. He's going to get a record, and it's a tremendous record. Professional footballers can talk at the end of the day what they've got and who they've played for and what they've done, but to represent your country for 26 times is just absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I wonder if he's... Yeah?
I think he made his debut when he was 18. I think he was 18
I was going
or
to
19
say.
years old. He made his debut. So I just wonder who it was, what manager it was that gave Steve Davis his big break.
Yeah, it's a good shout, actually, Tam. I'll tell you one thing, though. If he swapped the shirts over the time, he must have a fantastic shirt collection, Tam. I mean, when he eventually, and it's only a matter of time, Tam, as you know, when he eventually joins the show, Steve Davis will just have a room with about, the best collection of shirts behind him you could ever witness. Even if he put more goodies up, it would be good.
I was just imagining last night, I seen the Gibraltar against Holland game, I seen the stats. And Holland had 35 shots and Gibraltar never had a shot at goal or off target or a corner. And I'm thinking, how bad must it be to play for like a San Marino or a Gibraltar where you're just getting absolutely humped every game? But then you're thinking to yourself, if you get 50 or 60 caps for Gibraltar, I think you're the guy you're going to come up against and all the strips you'll have in your wee room. That's the only bonus I can think of about playing for San Marino, is the strips you'll get to make up for it.
Absolutely. And the funny thing is, and Charlie, you might be able to... Go on, Roughie.
No, I do want to go back, but I've not got my research notes in front of me here.
There's an oxymoron.
Are Denmark and Austria? Are Denmark and Austria in the Euro finals?
I would imagine they would
be.
They
qualified for the Euro finals?
I couldn't tell you with any great certainty.
No, I'm just a thought.
Denmark will beat something.
Just out of curiosity, why did you bring that up?
No, it just came to my head. We're talking about how good are Denmark, how good are Austria. Are they good enough that they're at the Euro finals like us? That's
all right. Okay. All right. Sometimes, absolutely. Sometimes it's good to leave.
I can see your ears twitching as I speak. I can see that.
Yeah. Don't worry, it's coming. They're both there.
I think it was Laurie Sanchez that gave him. Laurie Sanchez gave him his debut, I think it was.
Laurie Sanchez. Well, there you are. That kind of sums it up. And as ever, it's always good when Cheryl's always on the case as well. And she did say, she just said to me, it's Laurie Sanchez that gave him his debut. And I know Charlie was, I don't know if you noticed, Tam.
That's Stone Cheryl, didn't it? Your piece.
Well, Cheryl's magnificent. She's our researcher. But not only that, not only is she magnificent at getting all these golden nuggets out, but while we are battering away, wondering what's going round Roughie's head, Charlie's like that.
I'm just getting research for everybody to know, just keeping everybody up to date.
I love that. Charlie, I love that, son. That's why you're part of the team. It's absolutely magnificent. Anyway, apart from anything else, there was a point I was actually going to make to you there, Tam, until Bonzo came in with, I have something in my head, and it's now gone completely. Yes, and it's now come back into my head, which is, Tam, one of my other employees here at PLZ Soccer said to me, he said, Tam mentioned the other day there that he was going to play in a five-a-side game. Now, Charlie, bear this in mind. Tam said, I might be playing five-a-sides tonight, but I'm 11th man, and I'm waiting for somebody to drop out. And I thought to myself, and he... No, but the other thing is, Gordon, who's one of our team, the producer, says to us, how good must the other 10 have been if Tam can't get a game at fives? And I was thinking, what must the standard have been like if he's not getting a game?
No,
Charlie?
the standard's rotten. They're all crap. But
is it?
Because they'll put their name down early. I've been sitting on the subs bench, which is a regular occurrence, for a week, hoping for somebody to get COVID to drop out.
Listen,
get a game.
Is that not just par for your professional career anyway?
That's what I'm saying. I was on the bench.
It's funny actually. Tam, I kid you not. This is the God's honest truth. I have there is a pro game, ex-pros, and we would all get together. And Roughie knows about this game, but we'd all get together on a Monday and a Wednesday morning at 9:30, a Friday morning at 9:30. I'm talking the standard, unbelievable. Anybody who's been sacked or who's retired suddenly would turn up at this. I mean, McCoist,
I've heard about this.
Sutton,
Boyd.
Lennon, Boyd played. Yep, we all play on a Wednesday and a Friday. And I kid you not, the guy who organises it, one day I kicked off with one of his mates, Tam, and I was out for 3 months. 3 months, cold storage, not a phone call, nobody acknowledging I even existed.
It's because you never tried for other.
Well, no, because I kicked off with one of his mates who actually was a sponsor. But the standard of it, Charlie, is unbelievable. I never, ex-pros, pros just hate losing, even if it was at Tiddlywinks.
Yeah. It is brilliant to see, and it like I think it's good as well for like the lads that have not been playing and missed that environment and get that, crack and that banter and all that. But you never, when you go away for the game, obviously I'm still playing, but I can still imagine it now when you get the boots back on and play five-a-side. You don't want to get beat. And it's like Tam will say, it's different when you're playing against each other, who, against lads that are playing. But if Tam's playing with his mates who have never played the game and all that, it's how do you just go and get in a bit at Tam, or do you try and sit off, or what?
Well, listen, the thing is, you can't criticise because some of them are not great, but they're only out for a game of football. You know what I mean? You can't start hammering people. I just got up there and I just go and get a laugh and enjoy it. I'm not really caring about the score, but if it was Peter, if it was ex-pros and all that, I think it would be tastier. I think you would want to get beat, but with the boys, it's just up for a kick about and you get a laugh.
Yeah,
I'm saying, but the thing about it is, Charlie and Tam, when you speak to Peter's pals, Peter kicking off was a big occurrence. When he played in the games, kicking off
with the temper tantrum, was it?
It was just an ongoing occurrence to see. See you later, Peter.
Charlie, rule number one: if you're playing in the middle of the park and you're coming up against somebody who is a good player, what's the first thing you want to do?
Leave one on him.
And obviously try and mentally get inside his head and destabilise them so that you become the prominent player in the middle of the park.
Even a charity game.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Let me tell Tam, let me tell you, Dougie Bell, 35 seconds after the referee had kicked off, had put his 6 studs in my knee just to try and give me the message. That was Dougie Bell. So calm your jets. That's exactly what you've got to do.
Someday, who is it who cracked that joke that Peter gets sent off one day when he went over the top and an opposition player, and it was when he was getting into his car on the way home?
Joe Cammy. So I can't believe I get sent off for a late tackle. I got him just as he was coming out of the car park. Anyway, apart from anything else, I'll tell you, it'll be tasty tonight. You're talking about over-the-top challenges. What about Dave Cormack and the Q&A with the Aberdeen fans, Tam?
Yeah, I think it'll be a bit tamer than it would have been with Derek McManus. I think they bottled it, didn't they, with Derek McManus? Because the abuse they got was unbelievable. But with Stephen Glasshead and Scott Brown, I think it'll be interesting to see what the fans have got to say. And I'm sure the fans have a lot of questions to ask about maybe the recruitment process, how they went about getting Stephen Glass, Scott Brown, what players are thinking about getting for next season. Because I think I read something like there's only 4 or 5 players under contract at Aberdeen beyond this season. They've got a massive rebuilding job up there at Aberdeen. So there'll be a lot of players departing there and a lot of players coming in, possibly, I think, for America. Stephen Glass got obviously a lot of contacts over there, so no, that'll be good. If you're an Aberdeen fan, I'm sure that'll be very interesting to see what Dave Cormack's plans are, what his ambitions are, and same with Stephen and Scott Brown.
Yeah, well, I was going to say to you,
I-
there's a rumour, Charlie,
So-
that Lee Griffiths is being linked with a move up there. Have you heard that?
Yeah, I heard it as well. Yeah, obviously not going to sign a new deal at Celtic, as it led to believe. And if they can get the Griffiths one over the line, it makes that it's a huge coup for them with him and Brown and Griffiths. I think Griffiths has still got a lot to offer. He's 30 years of age. I still think he can do, go down to England and score goals. But if he wants to stay in Scotland and feels he can go to Aberdeen and be the main man, then what a coup that would be for them. So it would be a great signing. But like you say, if I'm Stephen Glass and Scott Brown and whoever they come in, having the 5 or 6 players or whatever in contract, I think is a good thing. Where they could start afresh, they could build their own squad, and give it a right go and be different from what the past 8 or 9 years have been under Derek. And I'm from the outside, I'm looking forward to seeing what Aberdeen bring to the table next season. Because Hibs have cemented that 3rd place. They're a good side, good manager, and Aberdeen's challenge next season is to get above Hibs, because they're not going to catch the Old Firm. So the best at the moment is going to be getting 3rd place, and they have to try and overhaul that for Hibs, and it'll be good to see, because they'll have like a blank canvas really to work with.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for all the messages of people mentioning. I did mention Dougie Bell. We had him on as on a 1-to-1 not that long ago, and Andy Bauer says Dougie Bell, Dougie skill. What a player. You're absolutely right. He was a fantastic player, Andy. Nice of you to mention that. Ian Noble says Dougie Bell was one of the best dribblers of the ball that he'd seen back in the day. So lots of people remembering Dougie. He's actually got a Super Cup winners medal. You want to see something. He would have had a Cup Winners' Cup medal if he hadn't been injured, but a really great player. The Hibbies, Tam, are they going to get Jackson Irvine? Is that crucial to them building for next season?
Yeah, I think it'd be a massive signing, Peter. I've been really impressed by him. I think that he's probably one of the reasons that Scott Allen's out the door as well, because he plays in that similar position. I just think he's fitter. He does more defensively than Scott Allen, but he can see a pass. I think his relationship with Martin Boyle has been tremendous. They're both on the same wavelength, and obviously both Australian internationals. They know where each other is on the pitch. Every time Jackson Irvine gets the ball, his first thought is forward. Takes it in the back foot, forward all the time, tries to slip people in. I like to see that in a player. I don't like to see players in that attacking role being safe. He tries to play that penetrating pass all the time. So I think if Hibs can get that over the line, I think it would be fantastic signing for next season, because I think he'll be even better with a pre-season under his belt, because he came into Hibs in, I think it was March, and he'd hardly played a game for 5 months. So I think it's a big signing.
Do you like him, Roughie?
Yeah, I do. I've liked him every club he's been at. I think, as Tam says, he's always on the front foot. He's very mobile, and he likes to get up and support as well. I think it's a great signing, and I'm glad that they kept tabs on him from the clubs that he's been at, and he will be a big asset next year. But let's hope Scott Allen comes back as well. Let's hope Scott Allen, can get everything behind him and we can see the Scott Allen that we all know that can play. And next year might be a new year for him.
Yeah, well, if anything, and Charlie, I think I'm not doing a disservice to Roughie or Tam here, but I'm going to put this point to you. If there's ever on this programme midfielders that I love, are midfielders who actually think about a forward pass. We mentioned Scott Allen. We'll look back there. We mentioned Dougie Bell. Players that actually look to try and open a team up with a forward pass rather than this square ball 5-10 yards, and then in some cases going back the way that we seem to watch on more than a few occasions is something I don't think you are guilty of at all.
No, and the first thought is play forward, get your team up the pitch. I think Scotty's ability is not the issue. It's obviously the fitness-wise. And if it comes down to the two between Jackson Irvine and Scott Allen, there's not even a comparison. Jackson Irvine when to get near him. It's just the fitness. That's the problem. Can Scotty go and last 90 minutes in a game? Can he get a consistent run of games? Jackson's more of a runner and can get in between and, as a goal threat, for run from midfield. Scotty's more of a ball player and wants to go and, create and be things like that. So it'll be good to see Scotty get opportunities and get games up at Inverness, but you know, it's how he comes back from that in the pre-season and how he feels and what the club want to do. But it's, you know, I just love seeing lads that want to go and play forward and express themselves and, you know, get on the ball and you know, enjoy it. And that's one thing that Scotty's good at. But it's obviously going to be fitness is a big issue for him.
Yeah, who was your favourite fellow midfielder that you liked playing with, Charlie, who could do things that you thought, wow, that's magnificent?
Well, the obviously one was a Gerrard who could see anything that you know, could play any pass, inside, outside of a pass, drill pass, you know, just different levels. But if I was playing with somebody that people wouldn't really be recognised with, would be somebody like a David Vaughn, who's a Welsh international who, you know, was just very composed on the ball, 5'8", 5'9", slight, but tell you what, in a tackle, unbelievable, brilliant, loved to tackle, could get on the ball, dictate the game, and could penetrate. And yeah, he was a good player that probably not many people would have heard of.
Yeah, and Tam, on that point, you mentioned Steven Gerrard there. Alex Kelly says Barry Ferguson. Absolutely, Barry, typical of the midfielder that we love to watch. Gerrard, I went down to see Liverpool play Everton in an FA Cup match at Anfield. Tam, Gerrard hit a 50-yard volley from the right back position over to the left wing where he'd spotted somebody running on the left-hand side in space. It wasn't even a ball into the channel. It was a ball to his feet on a 50-yard volley. It was just outrageous. I mean, he could do things with a ball that you were like, that's outrageous.
No, listen, Steven Gerrard, without doubt, my favourite midfield player in that generation. And you had some top ones like Scholes and Lampard and Vieira and Keane, but Gerrard for me was always a one because he's the way that Charlie said there, the way he zipped a pass in. You know, it was like you had to have a good touch when you played with. I don't know if Charlie obviously trained him, but as a striker, you'd have to have a good touch because he wrapped it into you all the time, into strikers' feet, and he always looked for wee give and go. So your touch had to be probably perfect in training because everything he done was at pace. He didn't trundle balls in or bounce balls in. It was zipped in every time, and I think that's a sign you're a real quality player. So no, for me, Gerrard was world class when he was at his peak. Loved him.
Yeah, I don't think you know how Roughie. Is there any point?
I took posters down. Sorry.
Yeah, I just
I
want
know you
to.
did, by the way.
I get one.
You're a disgrace.
One of my era, John Wark.
Oh,
box to box, unbelievable. I've never seen a midfielder, you know, doing box to box stuff, scoring goals, everything. And obviously later on, you can't get away from Paul Gascoigne. I'd pay money all day to watch Paul Gascoigne at his peak. You know, as Charlie's saying, a player with the ability to go by people, you know, and do things other players couldn't do, and score magnificent goals as well. So if I was at a club that Paul Gascoigne was playing at, I'd gladly play my season ticket money.
Yeah, I hope I'm not doing a disservice to the likes of Steven Gerrard and Paul Scholes and Frank Lampard and anybody else who can mention some of the players that have been at their peak, whether it be in Scotland or in England or even some of the Welsh players. But I think when you mention Gerrard, Lampard and the likes of Paul Scholes, I think Gaza was, if they're world class, he was out in a league of his own at one point when he was at his absolute peak. You might agree with me, you might not, but he was just absolutely outrageous. What a fantastic player.
He was so strong, wasn't he, when he ran with the ball? I know he caught people with elbows, I know, but you couldn't get the ball off him. I don't think he was exceptionally quick. I've never obviously played against him, but he couldn't get near him. He was just a strong runner, and he would just fend people off with his arms, very strong arms. So
the biggest compliment for, like, you know, for a Gascoigne is that people like a Gerrard, Scholes, and they said that he was the one they all looked up to as a kid, that they all wanted to be Paul Gascoigne. You know, he was a celebrity. He was a, you know, world star footballer, and it's just obviously what happened off the pitch was obviously an issue. But can you imagine if he wasn't like that off the pitch and how good he probably could have been? Yep. Because I think a lot of off the pitch culminated in his injuries. And
yeah, absolutely.
What a player.
I was just thinking, Roughie, usually sometimes at the end of a season, it won't happen this season, but usually at the end of a season, either a Celtic select or a Rangers select of backroom staff play against the Scottish football writers in a wee game. I don't think I'd like it if Gerrard turned up. with Gary McAllister.
Gary McAllister.
I'd probably need oxygen, Roughie, and then because I wouldn't even be able to.
They would pop around you all day.
No, what you do, what you do is when you come running out, you trip over the first thing you see and go, "Oh, hammy."
Exactly. Absolutely.
He still joins in now and then as well, doesn't he?
Oh, listen, you can't tell him not to, can you? He's unbelievable, which is magnificent. Anyway, another one here. I'm going to mention it. Well done, Kevin McTaggart, who's mentioned prior to that in the 80s, for me, one of the best midfielders that ever graced our country. And sometimes I think people forget about him, Paul McStay, who was absolutely magnificent. We were lucky. We had a lot of good midfielders, McStay, Souness, Gary McAllister, lots of guys that just stood out. Barry Ferguson I include in that as well. What about your boys, Tam? Charlie, you going to make the playoffs? Wraith Rovers sending shockwaves with that thumping of Dunfermline last night.
Yeah, obviously we played them Saturday, didn't we, Dunfermline? 2-0 down after 6 minutes, and it was a bit of a shock, but the lads battled away and got the goal, and I think Dunfermline have won 4 games since November, so obviously they're in having a tough spell, but in the playoffs everybody could beat everybody, and we just need to make sure that we're there. We got Wraith in a couple of weeks, so if we're close to them, we need to be close to them before we play them, and if we can do that, then we'll have a good chance of getting into second place.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you surprised, Tam, by the flack that's coming Robbie Nielsen's way now, because they faced Dunfermline at the weekend? What a game that's going to be, because if there ever is a manager where it's a spinal tap moment, if you think the pressure's at 10, it's at 11 as far as Robbie Nielsen's concerned.
Yeah, listen, he's under pressure. I don't think there's any doubt about it. A lot of fans have turned on him. Need to go out there and win. And listen, the pressure's on Stevie Crawford a little bit as well. Dunfermline would have been expected to be in the top 4, and I think they just dropped out it last night. I think Inverness are in there just by a goal difference or a point. So, massive game for both clubs. But just come back, I watched the Wraith Rovers game last night. I thought they were brilliant. It's one of the best performances I've seen this season from a Scottish team. Honestly, I thought they were absolutely magnificent. The way they passed the ball about, the way they cut Dunfermline open at times. I thought they were exceptional. And Jamie Gullen, obviously, on loan from Hibs, got a couple of goals, and Lewis Vaughn. There's a lot of problems with injuries, but they two looked very sharp. But no, really impressed with Wraith.
Yeah, Roughie, I must apologise, because it's the first time actually Tam was on the WhatsApp group giving it, Wraith Rovers are magnificent. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, he's even got Wraith Rovers TV up there in East Kilbride. He's unbelievable. But apparently it was on normal telly. Meanwhile,
you can get it up here.
I know I should have been over it, but unfortunately I get caught up, because obviously I get caught up in the politics of the big debate that was on. So I completely missed it. I should have watched it. Thanks very much to a lot of people. And Roughie, you're a disgrace. You should have mentioned this as well. Lots of people mentioning other players. Somebody mentioned Jim Bett, and then it's a great little mention. And I want to give the guy James McLaughlin. Well done to you, James. He mentioned somebody, Roughie, that you should have mentioned. Pat Stanton.
Oh, Pat, an absolute legend. It doesn't matter whether it was Celtic for a wee while or definitely at Hibs. And fortunate enough, I was there when he was a manager as well. And we keep talking about respect, a manager who's earned respect. And when they walk into the dressing room, you've got to listen to everything they say. And Pat was that guy. He was, and even on the park as well. I mean, I just, any games that I saw, I just can't remember him breaking out a normal stride. I don't ever remember him rushing to tackle anybody or anything. He just seemed to stroll over, make the talons, take the ball, and then build up for the back. He was an incredible player.
Yeah, you can tell people know about the football who watch this programme and love their footballers. Well done to Stuart Rankin, who mentions a player who's gone, but I think will not be forgotten by many in my book, Charlie. The last time I was in his company, the two of us were absolutely plastered in a pub in London. Had a great time with Ray Wilkins. Ray Wilkins is a great player.
Yeah, I had so many good. Obviously, wasn't fortunate enough to see him play very often, but he was a special talent, wasn't he? And unfortunately passed away. But when you look back, we've had some great players over the years, haven't we, come up and play in Scotland?
Yeah, absolutely. Rangers, he was great.
I cleaned Ray Wilkins' boots when he had a season at Hibs. I was a kid. He came
Is
in
that
and
right?
I cleaned his boots, and he was what a gentleman, by the way. Because a lot of players would just throw their boots at you and go, "Here, wee man, get them cleaned." But Ray was such a gentleman, and all he wanted was a wee cup of tea in the morning. But what a gentleman! But I did clean his boots, and he gave me a good tip at Christmas, so he wasn't tight either. So God
Oh,
bless you,
But
Ray.
even the other clubs, not just Rangers and Celtic, it was just like Aberdeen, the Bulgarian Kyliakov and people like that. And even when Dundee spent a bit of money and the players that they managed to bring in, Hearts and Hibs have brought Soze and Latape and people like that. We're just fortunate enough that all our clubs have been able to bring in top players, and we've been able to see them in Scottish football.
Yeah, absolutely. And whenever Roughie and I are on a downer, Roughie and I just quickly go into the cupboard. We open the cupboard, we take out a little shot, and we put whatever liquor we've got left in the house, and we put it up, and we just put it up to the photograph Roughie and I have of Georgie Nimzadze. And then we just toast it and remember the night we thought we'd need a stretcher.
Genius.
What a player! What a player! Anyway, apart from anything else, love talking about that.
Don't ask him how many World Cups he's been at.
or you're going to get the rush.
You're even saying the Georgians earlier.
Oh, I thought he was going to. I thought he was going to die. How many World Cups he's been to? All of a sudden, in come the minders. Anyway, apart from anything else, yeah, Georgie Nimzadze, great player. Just before we go, it was a Diego Maradona canvas, it was an iPad, it was an Xbox, it was the PLZ hat-trick competition, and well done to the lady who won it. Congratulations, Rachel Meredith. All three prizes will be passed on to you, and we'll make sure it's all well wrapped up and safely on its way to you. Rachel, congratulations to you. The good news is not only Rachel is a winner on our hat-trick competition, but you can be too, because we've got more competitions coming up this month. We'll give you an opportunity to win yourself some other fabulous prizes. Well worth it on the show. What are you laughing at?
Peter, does Rachel, congratulations to Rachel, but she is aware that she can switch the Maradona canvas for an Alan Rough canvas? If she so wishes, just letting her know. Ruffy's a housewife's favourite. I don't know what age Rachel is.
I'm quite happy to take it round to Rachel. And deliver it personally.
I bet you are.
I'm sure you are. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's why we can also, in next month's competition, we'll be throwing in a restraining order as well. So you not only get the canvas, you get the ability to make sure he's not within 10 miles of you. Anyway, great talking about the midfielders. Thanks to so many. And of course, we'll talk football tomorrow and analyse the aftermath of Scotland against the Faroe Islands. Here's hoping we're getting a goals fest. Good luck to Scotland tonight. Thanks to Charlie, thanks to Roughie, Tam, and from myself, Peter Martin. Thanks to you for joining us on the Football Show.
Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit arnoldclark.com.